exhilarating than a rebrand. Am I right? Only this group could agree with those words, right? But it's true. It's like trading in your 1978 Oldsmobile Cutlass for a brand new Tesla Model S, right? It's shiny, it's better for the environment, and you're the envy of all the neighborhood, right? Your colleagues and your coworkers, they love you for that because you're bringing them something new, something that they can get behind. Yay, right? Well, in 2009, I naively thought this way when I rolled out our brand refresh called Insurica, where we coalesced all of our agency brands into one. And on the first day, on that launch day, after we had a fun party where everything was very positive in the morning, I was forwarded an email by one of our account managers that she received from a client of ours that very same morning. And she thought that I just absolutely needed to see this email. This is the actual email, and it reads like this. It says, "Hello, Janet." Well, Janet was our account manager. It's from a guy by the name of James. And the subject says, "Insurica?" Question mark. It says, "Hello, Janet. Insurica? It's a joke, of course. Has the agency been transported to the Twilight Zone? Does the new dress code for employees include tights, a cape, and a mask? That name will not inspire confidence in any population except carnival mystics and high school goths." I think this part was addressed to me. "Tell the execs to sober up and put away the crayons, or I will personally come up there and take away their comic books," signed James. Now, I don't know how you would react when you received that email, but for me, it was like somebody saying, "Dang, that's an ugly baby." I mean, here we were rolling out, we had a great day, and all of a sudden we're getting this thing happen to us. Now, this made me think about the struggles that we have as branding professionals. Right? We work so hard on something, we bring it to fruition, we do all the research and study, but then we have some segments of our population that just don't get it and they actually push against it. Now, I'm not talking about so much the external ones like James. I can't really control the Jameses of the world, but what I also realized was there were some internal ones too. Some folks who looked at our brand and just didn't seem to want to get on board, right? And so I term those as brand cynics. They're the folks that you expect to be there with you, but they just don't, for whatever reason, want to come along for the ride. So I got to thinking, what do we do with this population? How do we deal with this particular population? I mean, we've given them something that's fantastic and just laid it at their feet for them to take and challenge and promote across the country, but they just seem to not want to do that. And I wondered, what could we do as branding professionals to help sway them away? You know, human nature tells us that, hey, we should focus on the big group of people. Now, I have to say this, in our agency, and I'm sure you felt it in your same companies as well, there is the mass population that adopts and accepts your brand rollout, and they're great with it. Then there's that segment over here that really push back against us. Human nature says, let's deal with these groups, and these will come along as they will. But I think that we're missing an incredible opportunity here. Because if you can take the brand cynic and you can move the needle on them, then they are going to promote your brand with far more gusto than the folks in the big general category here, because they've had to make a personal journey to change that in their lives. And so I thought, how can we go about taking care of this? Well, the first thing that we have to do before we can actually do anything to sway the way that they feel is to actually understand why they're there in that first place. What makes them a brand cynic in the first place? And so I wondered, and I said, well, you know what? I think it's very simple. It's change. Nobody really likes change. Somebody has given them something and told them to do something that they didn't have a choice in. They don't see a need for it, and they just might not want to get on the road with us. It's what it's got to be. I mean, it's not like they hated the brand yesterday. They hate the brand today. So something has happened to them that they feel totally totally have no control over anymore. In fact, they're grieving. They are grieving for what they used to have. And when we understand that, when we can realize their grief, then we can help move them to the other side. As long as we understand it, because the cycle is very easy, and it always starts with this one right here. We're not going to actually make this brand happen. I've seen this 100 times before. We have projects that we get excited about, and then we stop and we just let them go. And I just will sit back and let the ride go, and eventually it'll go away. This is pretty indicative of companies that have a lot of starts and stops in what they do, right? We all have been there with great projects, and they've got a lot of great senior leadership support, and we roll them out, and then all of a sudden it's not such important anymore, and move on to something else, and then it just sort of filters away. So they're thinking, well, I don't like this idea, so I'm just going to ride out the storm, and this will go the way of the rest of those projects. The way to get around that is to show them your detailed plan, because I know that you've done it. You've put together research and data, and you know exactly what the timeline is going to be. For this brand Senate to move and make their progress, they've got to understand that this is going to happen. Here's the timeline. Here are the deliverables. Let me show you exactly how it's going to progress. Because then, and only then, can they move to, what idiot thought this up? This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And it's pretty easy to tell when you have a cynic that's stuck in this stage, because they're angry. They're angry, and they want you to know how angry they are. They want you to go along on that ride with them. And why are they angry? Because someone has moved their cheese. They've not only moved their cheese, you've moved their cheese. You've not only moved their cheese, you've probably eaten their cheese. There is no more cheese. So what do we do with this group? They're usually outwardly outspoken, a little bit hostile. This group is the group that needs data and statistics behind it. When you were preparing your brand, you found out from customer surveys, and you found out from working with PR firms, you found out why you're doing this. You're saying your customer segmentation no longer adheres to this brand, we need to change. This group is right now in an emotional state, and the only way to move them out of that emotional state is to give them the facts and figures behind why this is being done. When they can understand that, when they can comprehend why we've made the decision, or what the data is that's moved us through this decision process, then and only then can they get over to this one. Well, okay, if we're going to do this rebrand, I could get on board with it if you change those colors, change the tagline, and, oh, by the way, get a new font, because that one's done. Oh, and by the way, I've done a little sketch for you so you can kind of see these ideas, because I want to help you. This stage creates out of everyone, despite what their day job is, a marketing guru. They are a branding wannabe. I call them a brand-to-be. And they want to help you every step of the way with their information. It doesn't matter what they do for their living. They are somehow really, really marketing people at heart, and they know better than you will. And so this group is a very, very time-consuming and tough group to get all that helpful, not so helpful information from them. So how do we get them out of that stage? How do we get the brand-to-bees to kind of move forward? Well, that's pretty simple. CEO reinforcement, a healthy dose of that is a good thing right here. When your CEO or your senior leadership team can adequately tell what the branding message is, and that they are on board with the reasoning behind it, they are behind the artwork elements behind it, and they can articulate that message to every single person, that shuts the brand-to-bees down all of a sudden. And they can go back to working in IT or the mailroom or policy services or wherever they happen to work. Well, then they move over into, well, okay, I guess this is going to happen. I'll just go along with everything. This is a dangerous stage to be in. This is a dangerous stage because it creates apathy. And apathy is a brand killer. The good news is that it's a fairly easy stage to get them out of, too. Because all it takes is a little bit of sympathy and maybe letting them take a peek behind the curtains. This group, I would pull them aside and say, listen, I understand that you're struggling with this, but these are the long-term goals that we have as an organization. Here are some things that not so many other people have seen, where we think the brand is going to take us in 2-5 years down the road. I'd like to get your thoughts about that. They all of a sudden are part of that process, and they can catch that vision. And when they can catch that vision, they can get out of this doldrums of the Eeyore syndrome. They suddenly move to where we really want them to be, that they get it. They understand the brand. They can articulate the message. They can tell your story the way you want your story told. This is the ultimate place for them to be. Because this group, they will talk about your brand because they have been through the journey, and they will quickly become what I like to call a brand ambassador for the agency or the company. They will work tirelessly to tell people about your brand and how it works. Now, I didn't see anybody from MetLife on the attendee list here, but I can only imagine what they experienced at MetLife because, let's face it, they put down Snoopy. They put down Snoopy. Let me close with this. I don't want you to think that I'm making light of the situation or what we're doing here. What we do as an organization is incredibly important. It is so important because we are the storytellers of our companies, and our brands represent our companies and who they are. But we have to be able to focus and learn to focus on turning people from brand cynics to brand ambassadors, because they will lift up your brand and they will promote that brand everywhere in a much more amplified method than you could ever hope to imagine for.